Hello.
I'm here.
Good afternoon.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hopefully my internet holds up. I just had to kick my son off of his video games so that we didn't overload the Wi-Fi. So I am the least popular man in this house right now. Whew. So thanks everybody for jumping on. Let's just do a quick roll call just to make sure that we've got all the members. So yeah, what I see, if I don't name you, if you're a voting member and I don't name you out, just speak up. So I've got Cliff, Latanya, Aaron, Leibold, Shaviva, Tim Hurley, Spencer, Teresa, Rhonda, and that's all I can recognize. Is there anybody else that I'm missing? I don't know. Sometimes Jamie pops up, but he's got a different name. Is Jamad, are you on? Okay. Well,
Bluegrass song, Blue Moon of Itself. Travis.
What is Kentucky?
That's it.
Oh,
Texting abbreviations.
Alex Trebek, if we could.
F2F. Let's get together this way. Paige.
What is face-to-face?
Correct.
Texting abbreviations, 400.
JK, only a joke. Justin.
What is just kidding?
You got it.
Texting abbreviation.
We can mute that one.
ROTFL. You've made me hysterical. Paige.
What is rolling on the floor laughing?
Good.
Texting abbreviations, 800.
OT, not pertaining to the issue at hand. Paige.
What is off topic?
Yes.
Texting abbreviations, 1,000.
YBS. I'm trying to warn you.
Andrew.
As you'll be sorry. Paige.
State song, 600.
Maryland state song, Maryland, My Maryland, is sung to the tune of this Christmas song. Justin.
What is O Tenenbaum?
You are right.
Movies Across America for 200.
Hi, I'm Bill Ritter from New York's ABC 7. Philip Johnson designed the soaring towers of the New York State Pavilion at the 1964 World's Fair in the futuristic Googie style, which fit perfectly in this 1997 film that featured them.
Justin.
What is Men in Black?
Yes.
Movies Across America for 4.
I'm Annalise Parks with TXA 21. George W. Bush's Oval Office is one setting for the movie W, directed by this man who entered Yale the same year as Bush.
Paige.
Who's Oliver North?
Nope. Justin.
Who's Oliver Stone?
Yes.
Movies for 6.
Hi, I'm Betty Davis from Local 10. Miami Beach's Carlisle Hotel was a setting for this 1996 comedy starring Robin Williams and Nathan Lane.
Paige.
What is the birdcage?
You got it.
State songs, 200.
Its state folk song is Roll On, Columbia, Roll On. Travis.
What is Washington?
That is right, and that takes you up to 1,200. Takes us into the first grade.
All right. Hopefully we're done with that.
I think so.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome. Let's go ahead and
Yeah.
get her started. If folks are not voting members, can you please mute yourself?
Camera will just stay this.
Thank you. All right. So we've got an agenda that Kendra has sent around. Hopefully everybody got a chance to take a peek at that. Joe and I did have some brief discussion about potentially making a recommendation to adjust the agenda. Kendra will be able to put onto the screen here shortly. There tended to be some clustering of the top designs, and there was some some thought that it might just make sense to take the top from each of those sort of groupings. So we had that design number 109, design 107, design 50, 59, I guess, and design that 22, 26, 34, that very same elements of the design and maybe just slightly different colors. There was 3 different groupings of that when you went in and scored. So if that's doable for everybody on the call or on the Zoom, everybody fine with that adjustment?
Tavis, could you share like a screen? Unfortunately, I don't have access to that. What you're referencing right now, what designs are what?
Oh, sure, Kendra. If you, we don't have one screen of all of the designs because there were obviously quite a few. Kendra, if you can sort of filter through those design clusters that we had sent.
I'm just curious to what those top designs were, so I'd know what I'd be saying yes to.
Sure. So this was 22, 26, 34 variation. Obviously, they're all the same basic element, just some differences there in color. All right, if you could move to the next.
Shit. I don't need him to hear me. I just need to hear him.
All right. Obviously, the one on the left here, this is, I believe, 59. This, the last 4 are the proposed edits on this version, on 59. Can you move to the next one, please? All right, this was 107. Variations that were presented. And then if you could move to 109, Kendra. All right, and there's 109. So it would be, and Kendra, if you could bring up the Excel sheet. So it would be basically, Spencer, the top designs from each of those last 4 slides. The top ranked designs according to the cumulative scores from those Google Docs. Oh, sorry, Kendra, I'm gonna take that one down. I'm gonna send you another one that reflects those top 4. We just made this adjustment maybe 5 minutes before the call, so my apologies, guys.
Hey, Tavis,
Yep.
have we given any thought to when we're narrowing these designs down to try to maybe meet in person in the council chambers where we could spread out between the conference room and the city council chambers? We only got 14 people. we could spread everybody out. The designs could be put on a board. And we could actually, instead of trying to go back and forth and trying to remember what was just up there, I'd be more than willing to come in and meet in person.
Well, I mean, the problem is, and there was a request to do something similar. The problem is that it is a public meeting, so we can't control the access into the room.
We can control how many people are in the room. We've done that
I can tell
before.
you, Dave, I can tell you, I'm not interested in going into a room with, however many, even regardless of the number. I think we've got a board of 12 folks. I think if council isn't meeting in in-person sessions, I don't understand why we would.
Well, we're doing our budget meeting in person and our planning meeting in person in the next couple of weeks. I'm just throwing this, try to
Sure.
make it easy, but look at lines and vote as opposed to flipping back and forth and trying to pick one off of this slide and one off of the next slide.
Let's
That's
try. Yeah, let's try. So I'm gonna send this over to everybody. Actually, Kendra, the email that I had just sent you, if you could forward on to the committee and liaisons, pretty much everybody that gets the agenda. That way everybody can pull it up on their own device. Doesn't have to Dave's point, sort of rely on it popping up on the screen.
But Tavis, that slide that she just had up with 4 designs, are those the top 4 designs? It just popped up very briefly.
Yeah, I'm not, without seeing it, I don't want to confirm either way.
Yeah, that one. Isn't that the top 4 designs?
So this would be the top 4 designs, yes.
If we could keep that up, I think that might address Dave's issue so we could see them all.
I'm actually sharing that, so Kendra doesn't have to worry about it.
Oh, perfect. So,
can you tell us how those 4 ranked?
yeah, let me get off of the full screen here.
Tavis, are these the top scoring designs overall, or are these the top scoring one per badge submission? And is there a difference?
So there is a difference. This is the top designs sort of per or the top of each design, right? So we had that 22, 26, 34. We had the 107, 109, and 59. So these are the top scoring from each of those.
Is that the color scheme as well?
These are the top, because there were some of these had different variations in colors. These are all of the designs that ranked the highest when we took all, I think 50, I'm sorry, I think it's 42. All or 41 category, 41 submissions, revisions really. These are the top 4 from those, one from each grouping. Because some of these had different color variations, some more than others. So the overall top ranked design, and it was an average score of 7.05. It was 107C, so that one in the upper right-hand corner. That design actually, there were 7 different designs or versions of that design submitted. And all 7 of those designs were in the top 8 of the overall scoring. So that there seem to be some consensus there, at least in this portion of consideration. The next highest, which came in at number 7, like I said, because that 107, all the variations scored so high there. But the next highest was 109B, which is the lower left-hand corner. And that came in at 6.15.
That's the covered walk.
The next one came in ranked total number 9. And that was that 22, 26, 34 B1, that one in the upper left-hand corner. And that came in at 6.11.
Davis,
Yep.
I'm looking at your score sheet and that doesn't line up. And maybe I've got an old score sheet, but B1 came in at 534 and C2 is 611.
Oh, yeah, let me look.
So is that C2 and you just typed B1 or?
Let me go back and look. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
I mean, maybe it's supposed to be C2 there. Just
that was, doggone it. That was Joe, I'm sending you a revised image.
Why can't you get back?
Because it was that somehow was the wrong image. Let me.
Tavis, if I may, this is Cliff. I honestly have to echo Dave's comments about I sure would like to meet in person. I just don't feel a part of this whole committee. I'd like to meet everybody actually and get to know them a little better. And it just seems as though we're in kind of like glass houses. And the way that we're judging these and selecting what we feel might be the right one, I don't know. I just don't feel a part of the group. I wish we could meet in person. If there's any way we can do that, with safety precautions, I'm all for it. Just my thoughts. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, look, I would love to do it as well. I don't know how frankly, I don't know how we're able to do that while ensuring, folks' safety. And that's not to say that folks can't meet, they can make their own decisions, but to your point, we would have to have 100% agreement by everybody on this call.
Travis, I would be there.
Sure. So we would have to have every single person be in agreement. And if we wanted to entertain that conversation, I guess we could go ahead and entertain.
You want to face these people.
Sorry, I'm not sure. Yeah, if we wanted to, entertain that conversation, I guess we can do a show of hands, I guess, of folks that are. We've got one person already saying that they're not comfortable. I've certainly said that I'm not, but I'm willing to, I guess, entertain a motion. And if there's some way to do it in a hybrid, I don't know. I think that because that gets you to the same thing that you're talking about, Cliff. If we're trying to break down the barriers, and I understand that this process, frankly, sucks to try to do on Zoom. It is awful. And it does ultimately, I think, get us into our corners and doesn't allow us to sort of break down and have some real meaningful dialogues. Unfortunately, I just don't know how we get past it if we've got half of the committee who's not able to meet. And then we've, so what was the purpose of the in-person? I just don't know how to do it.
And if I may, this committee's worked hard. I mean, a lot of us have put a lot of time and effort into this. and I just don't want to, vote on something and be responsible for something that I don't feel in my heart that I did it correctly or fairly. And I know that the city council needs to have this thing figured out if they have to. I don't know if there's a way we could table it or just wait for a while until we can all meet together. I don't know if this deadline is so crucial to changing the Griffin and hurry and getting these uniforms. There's so many other factors that could weigh into this, with the budget and the cameras and stuff. I don't know.
I do think, Cliff, that we could, one thing to remember is that we aren't actually empowered to make the change. We're ultimately going to make a recommendation to city council, and they will have to make the determination. And so whether we settle in on, one particular design, or if we send over, small one or two or whatever number of designs for them to consider. So I hear you. This thing has some real weight, and we don't want to be dismissive of that. But outside of everybody being fully vaxxed and immune, I just don't I don't know how we're able to do I can't envision a scenario where we're able to do the in-person.
Okay.
Then I think we should hold off from making any decision until we can actually all sit together and have those patches and colors and up in front and all voice our opinion, instead of it just takes so long for these meetings and we just keep spinning and spinning and spinning. And I agree with Cliffy that we should wait. We got this far. Let's wait then to make a final decision because of the money that's being spent until we can.
Well, but we're not making a final decision. We're not making a final decision. We're making a recommendation to council. And I actually think that we've made a heck of a lot of progress throughout this process, right? We've curated all these designs. We've gone through and we've scored a number. We've sent back for revisions. I mean, we have made progress. It's not like we're just spinning in circles here. I think that we're at a point where we could consider at least the top four, and I suspect we could settle in on the top one if we buckle down. But go ahead, Spencer.
I just wanted to ask procedurally, if we actually do have to have a supermajority, a majority, 100%, if we would make a motion to delay this until council is actually meeting in person. I do think we're close. I think we're very close to a final design. That's why I think we should be extra careful to make sure that everybody fully understands and can look at them in person. I would be in favor of making a motion to delaying this until council meets in person and going from there. That's my opinion. Does anyone have thoughts on that? Is that
procedurally, we've got a motion. Do we have a second, and then we can go to discussion? Rhonda is making the second. Do we have discussion on the motion at hand, which is to hold off this discussion for until Waterloo City Council is able to meet in person? Aaron Page?
I appreciate why everybody wants to meet in person. I would love to get together with everybody. I would love to be able to shake hands with everybody. There's no doubt that that's what everybody desires. But we've managed so far by doing it by Zoom. And unfortunately, I cannot meet in person until I'm vaccinated. And I'm just at the end of the list. In spite of health concerns, my age puts me, waiting months at a time. And I just time-wise, I didn't exactly sign up for this committee to be that much time. I was sort of under the impression that this was like the last meeting and we're down to the 4. We have all the results of the surveys that we did. We have all the numbers. And like Tavis said, it's just a recommendation. So I'm not sure what we can what can be gained by delaying and getting together that is really such a challenge when we're all gathered here together right now with all the images on our phone when it's fresh in our minds, you know. But I would still love to get together even after the committee's over, because it would still be lovely to meet everybody. But I do think we can get to the business at hand.
Councilwoman, yep, Councilwoman Julie.
Let me just add in, because Dave mentioned that the council is going to be meeting in person for budget, but that's an exception. And we're going to be doing it at the Center for the Arts, where we will have plenty of room to socially distance. And I don't know if that option is available to this committee. So it's not like the council is going to now start having all of our meetings in person. That is not the case yet.
Sharon or Dave, this is Tim. Just while you used the budget word, have you loaded the cost of this potential change into the 22 budget?
I personally don't have an answer for that, Tim. I will say that before we adjourn this meeting, I do have a question that I'd like to ask everyone that would impact the budget. But I don't know, and David, I don't know if you've seen the detail to know if this is included in the budget or not.
I had a long conversation with Michelle yesterday, and it's not in the budget.
Well, the only thing about, I'd love to meet in person, and I understand I'm vaccinated, so I'm ready to rock and roll, but I understand everybody else's nervousness about that. But we do have a task to recommend, and the budget's got to be certified by the end of March with a second hearing. So there is a time issue here. I guess council can put in something and not have the specific design. I suppose that can work.
Yeah, we did present to council sort of the framework for cost, even though we didn't have a design. So we did that, I think, in the either January or February meeting.
It needed to be by the 1st of February. I can ask Major Leibel, because I don't believe it's in the police department budget, and Michelle said it's not in the overall budget right now.
We do not have it in our budget. No, our understanding was it was going to be budgeted outside of our budget.
Shaviva, got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Ever since this has been an issue, as far as the that you know there's going to change, has not the city council, has not the police department given any kind of budget consideration that whatever design is going to be, it's going to call for a change, right? For it to be written into the budget. So that's not been considered at all?
Not yet, I guess, from what Dave said.
We did submit the cost estimate. They do have, the council received the cost estimate is what we estimated it would cost. But to where the funding was going to come from, no, nobody's established that. And our budget won't be set till July. So that's kind of where it's in limbo right now.
And I don't know if Sharon has seen the overall budget, but I haven't seen any figures on the budget. And we get revised CIP budgets on a every other week basis, basically. So, and keep in mind, when I suggested meeting in person, I wasn't trying to alienate anybody, because I truly believe when we come back to full council in person, or allow open meetings, that we'll still have people we'll still have a hybrid model of it, where one or two might still be participating on Zoom, or more than one or two. But and that's an option too. I mean, if social distancing and a mask isn't sufficient for a person's peace of mind, you could do a hybrid meeting where a portion of us are sitting in a room, so we can face to face and see people, social distancing with masks on, and then the people that aren't comfortable with that could still come in and be part of the Zoom, just like we do city council meetings now. That's just a suggestion. I'm not trying to sway any direction. I just wanted to throw that out there to make it easier. And I think sometimes meeting people face to face and discussing it face to face is good dialogue. I think it truly is.
Teresa.
I just, looking at how long we have taken already, how many more meetings are we planning on having? Because I guess my understanding was maybe this would be our last one, or possibly like that's where my time frame when I was initially asked to be on this was that we would run in through February and possibly March. And looking at we are so close to the finish line of making a recommendation, I can't justify postponing it when I could. I mean, I printed off the images, I can see them to say what it is I'm thinking of. And I get, for me, like meeting in person at 3, 4, or 5, it's not an option. It would have to be by Zoom, but there's also the time commitment. And I think we should be respectful of the things that we asked this committee to do from the start.
I would also add that I believe that there is value. I think there's real value in folks meeting face to face, and I wish as much as I'm sure everybody that we could all do that comfortably and safely and without pause. But recognizing that we can't do that, that folks that we, yes, physically could meet, but if we've got folks who are not comfortable doing so because they're not yet vaccinated from this thing that has completely uprooted damn near every portion of our lives. If we're going to say there's value in having these meetings, to doing the in-person meeting, but some folks can't realize that value because they're not vaccinated and they're not comfortable taking that risk. From a standpoint of equity, this singular form of meeting to me makes a heck of a lot more sense. Tim, go ahead.
I would suggest we try getting on with it today, getting on with business, even though I'd love to meet in person, but our focus is not necessarily one another. It's to pick some designs.
Yep.
And if we come to a stalemate, then perhaps that's when we go on pause until we can meet together. But now that's just my opinion. Now another question is, what are our, rehearse for me, our deliverables to the council? 1 design, 4 designs, 2 designs? What are our deliverables?
Sure. That one, so that point I'll answer real quick, and then we do have a motion on the floor that we do have to vote on, just sort of procedurally. But we can submit, obviously we could certainly submit a singular design that we're able to find consensus on. I think for everybody involved, that would be the ideal. If we can't do that, then we can settle in on any number of designs that we wanted to submit to council for their consideration. In the interest of keeping it manageable, having that be 2, probably no more than 3. But we can. It's sort of up to us if how we make that recommendation to council. Joe, go ahead.
I know there's been talk about how many more meetings. I think we need to have at least 1 more after this one. I don't think, looking at the designs, I'd like to send them to our patch maker and have him make them so we can see them before we, physically make them. And I think he'll do that for us. And then we can physically see the patch, at least 1 more, maybe less. But, some of these designs are intricate. I'm not a patch designer. I'd like to have them at least give some input on them. I just got them today, so I haven't had a chance to send them off to them and say, what's your thoughts? I think we need to have their opinion because there may be stuff that's impossible to do in some of these designs. I mean, that came up with the last set. That may come up again. Just my thoughts.
Well, so let's just, we do have a motion on the floor to postpone these meetings until we can hold them in person. So we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, so we've got Rhonda, Cliff, Joe, and Spencer. All opposed, same sign. We've got Tim, Aaron, Teresa, Latanya, Shaviva, and myself. So that motion fails. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go ahead and look at these four.
Davis, I didn't know if, did you count Marcus? He commented down below.
Oh, I did not. I did not.
He is on the meeting now and he's.
Gotcha. Sorry, I didn't see him. All right. Motion still fails to pass. So, so if we can bring those four designs back up.
You got them?
Yep, they're up. They're up. Thank you. So these are the four that were the highest ranked of these four was 107C. The next highest was 109B. Next was that 222634 C2, and final was 59B.
What kind of points did 59B get on average?
Yep, let me pull that up. $59B got a 5.97. That was it was overall it was the 13th highest ranked.
What about the rest of them, Tavis? Can you give the score on the rest?
Yeah. So the first one, 107C, that score was 7.05. That was the number one overall ranked. The next highest was 109B. That came in at 6.15. That was the seventh highest ranked. Just gave you the 59B. So that 222634, that came in at 6.11, and that was the ninth overall ranked.
Tavis, real quick, I don't want to take too much of your time, but you know, the last meeting we had talked about, it got brought up about the perception of our current patch and what people see when they look at our patch. And then I had someone from advertising send me this. I don't know if you can see it, but basically 109 or 10, the top one, they claimed it looked too close to a Nazi eagle. And that's someone in advertising that sent this to me. I sent this right back to him and said, this looks more like that than that patch, but everyone has a different perception and everyone's going to see this differently. And I
actually think it's like,
I'm just telling you what someone brought to my attention. And it's just how everybody has a different perception based on their background and the things that they've been exposed to in life, see things differently. So I think no matter what we put on this, someone's going to find something in it, and that's all I've got.
Yeah, I tend to think it's incredibly dangerous to throw out to draw connections to Nazism. But I get it. I get it. And this was brought up previously. Aaron, if you would be willing to speak to this issue, you certainly have a unique and qualified perspective.
Thank you, Tavis. Yeah, it's not related to a Nazi eagle. The Nazi eagle has very specific characteristics that this design does not does not replicate. Nazi eagles always have something like in the beak. They're always holding something, their claws, they're holding something in the legs of their claws. And this doesn't have any of that. Hitler really liked old heraldic straight lined graphic images, and the eagle that's there is actually quite fluid and elegant. It's not the same style, and it doesn't have any of the same characteristics. It's important to note that eagles are used in all kinds of different symbols, from the state of Iowa to the United States. Not every eagle is derived from the Nazi eagle, and it's just sort of important to remember that. I asked everybody in my family, and nobody saw the connection. I checked with the ADL. They did not see the connection. Yeah, it's just not there. I appreciate someone in advertising saw it, but like, as a Jew in a Holocaust family with a degree in Holocaust studies, I don't see it.
And I really appreciate that, Aaron. I really do. But it got brought up last meeting that our existing patch, and I believe you said that you said you see a swastika. And so I just wanted to
say that.
see if I heard. But
Well, I'm sorry you heard that. What I said was the swastika and the griffin have an interesting connection in being ancient symbols that's regarded as positive connotation. So please do not change what I said.
I apologize if I did, but I just wanted to bring that up because everyone sees things differently. So
absolutely entitled to that. You know, there's no question. But as a person who's actually educated on those issues, like, I don't see it. So we just have to rank that against the opinions of people who maybe don't have that background, and that's okay.
Thank you.
But I don't see anything wrong with the griffin. That we had a lot of people are saying that too. So why are we even doing?
Actually, city council voted 7-0, if memory serves me correct, that this committee was charged with how to change the current police insignia, not whether to change the current police insignia. And so our task at hand here is to determine of the designs that we've collected, that we've asked for, that we've asked revisions for, what are we going to present back to council? We are not making final decisions. That is up to them. They are elected officials. And they get the heavy lift. But we've got a heavy lift in determining which of these, or if there is a number that we want to send to council for their consideration. But it is important to note that our task here is to decide how to change, not whether to change.
I think merely all she was doing was saying that these anecdotal comparisons that can be a slippery slope. We understand what we're charged with, and that doesn't change. But there can be comparisons made that she didn't see anything wrong with it. She didn't see it was a Nazi eagle, and we don't see this as a Ku Klux Klan thing. That's I think that's all I took from it. It was once we get into these anecdotal comparisons of that's all I'm saying. So as far as the designs go, was there a specific directive given to the artists on these revisions to not have our existing color scheme involved?
No, that is not accurate. Let me find. Well, you'll see it in our notes, in our minutes. I'll pull those up. So for designs 22, 26, and 34, we said to replace red griffin with consider replacing red griffin with a yellow griffin. There was some discussion at the last meeting about the use of the Red Griffin, according to our minutes, that actually was you, Spencer, that said that may not be well liked by others. Remember that these were not specific instructions. These were merely suggestions and guidance in revisions. So no white lettering talking about discoloring. There was discussion of including some language, but there was no discussion on here of moving away from any design palette other than pointing back to replacing the Red Griffin with a yellow Griffin, as we had mentioned.
Correct, yeah. I own that statement. I just thought that was, I didn't know if that was going to mean that we're going to get any designs back with that, because I thought there could be some balance with some of the other elements, but that's all the comment
we did.
there.
We did get those designs back. I mean, you saw those in the Google. They just didn't rank particularly high, right? So as we're looking at what folks came to some level of consensus with, these are the designs, the four that were up. Those are the designs that folks sort of coalesced around.
Davis?
Yeah.
Can I clarify, the four that you've given us are not the top four vote getters? They are the top one from each of the four different design categories, right? If we looked at the top vote getters, I think you told me that number one that we were looking at was what garnered the top 6 votes or the top 7 votes?
Correct. So the basic structure of that basic structure of that design 107 scored in there are 7 total designs. That design scored in the top 8.
So if we were looking at 1 through 10, this design would be 1 through 8, right?
It would just about. There was it would be 7 of the top 8.
So Tavis, Cliff here. Judging these, and I don't know how everyone judged, but it's from what is it, 1 to 10?
0 to 10.
0 to 10. So hypothetically, if someone didn't like the Griffin, or if it kind of looked like a Griffin, they could just put 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other designs without the Griffin, they could put 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Something like that. Okay.
Theoretically, yes.
If they, that could be one reason why this design, which I don't think any of the officers had any input about, but I know that they were looking at the Griffin part. I'm just saying that perhaps, it was really, I don't know how the voting went, to be real honest, but I'm just saying hypothetically, it could be if you didn't like the Griffin, everything is 0. If you wanted anything but the Griffin, you could do 10s.
That is
okay.
Yeah, in essence, that is. I mean, folks were certainly free to vote how they chose. There is, if we were to go through and look item by item, there was. I'm sorry, Aaron, you got your hand up. Go ahead. Or I don't know if that's an old hand. I'm not sure.
Sorry,
There's
I
hands
don't
all
want
over
to get the
the screen.
clapping thing off. That's not what I meant to do. I did raise my hand though. I was just wondering, is there a slide of the top 4 designs overall that we could see compared to the top 4 designs for each submission?
Joe, if you want to pull, that was the original email that I had sent. of the top 4 designs. Cliff, to your question, there was one respondent that scored zeros in all of the we'll call them not the non 22, 26, 34. So they scored 10s on all those and zeros for everything else. And there was one respondent that did so not exactly the reverse, but scored a number of the 22, 26, 34s at 0 or near 0, and scored higher, didn't score 10s, but scored higher on those designs that were, but so that only happened with sort of 2 opposed circumstances, so they sort of balanced each other out, to be honest. Yeah, ideally, I think all of these have quite a bit of color contrast. So for that to be one of the criterias, and for an item to get a 0 on color contrast, that personally, I was sort of scratching my head a little bit on that, but folks have to sort of stick by their votes. Aaron, to your
So these
question,
are for overall.
these were the top 4 overall.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Hey,
Okay.
Patty.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rhonda.
Hey, I got a picture here to put up, and I never, tell me if this one was ever on that submission with that color. Can you see it?
Trying to make it bigger. Give me 1 second here.
Okay. Because I don't remember seeing it. I was outside and I was kind of in a hurry, but I don't recall even seeing with the yellow background and the red griffin that's similar to what we have right now. I don't know, somebody else maybe on the committee can answer. Maybe I never saw that color option.
I don't recall seeing it in the submissions.
Is there any reason why it wasn't on to vote?
Well, I don't recall seeing it in the submissions.
Yeah, is there any reason why it wasn't on the choice to vote on it?
If it wasn't submitted, that would be the reason why it wasn't there.
Is there a reason why it wasn't submitted though?
I don't know. That would be up to the artist.
Because I kept waiting for that and that never came up. And of course, I was truthful with my things. I didn't do 0, 0, 0s or 10, 10, 10. I was being honest what we were told to do at the beginning of everything of doing this. And obviously some people aren't doing it. And that's just making it unfair to other people who are choosing a certain patch. But if people are putting 0, 0, 0, 0, that ain't correct. That's not what we agreed on to be a part of this committee. Am I wrong or?
No, you are 100% correct. You're 100% correct. And so the fact that
the resolution was for to soften up the griffin, and we keep going back and starting all over, it seems like.
All right, so sorry, Rhonda, I can't, to your question of whether that design was submitted, I did not see that design submitted. I don't know.
I kept waiting for it to come up, and I looked at all those patches, but that one never came up. That's similar to what we had. And the resolution was to soften the griffin.
Sure, but if that was not submitted by the artist in that format, there's no way to include that in the.
Well, I don't understand why it wouldn't have been when it's very, the color scheme, and that's what we've been pushing on, trying to keep the color scheme the same for when officers are working in large crowds. It's easier for us to spot that patch with those colors. That's what we've had for years. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me or not, but that just seems odd that color scheme wasn't in for the pit. And then some, like I said, and some people picking zeros and they're not being honest on all their answers for the being honest on the questionnaire. So just speaking my mind.
So
But
we,
if I can, at least from my mind, Rhonda, it seemed like one person from one side did the 10 and 0. Another person from the other side did a 10 and 0. So as Tava said, they balanced each other out.
Well, I just don't think it's honest. I mean, there's some people that I'm just frustrated with this. Can't do it in person. And I understand some people haven't been vaccinated. But I go to a gym. I still do things. I wear my mask. I follow all the guidelines, and I'm just getting frustrated with this.
Rhonda, I did go back and look. That design that you presented was not submitted by the artist.
Okay. Is there any way of getting that in?
But there were 28 of those badges submitted, 28 submissions with that design. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have the red and gold. So do we need a 29th submission or?
Yes, I think we should have a vote for that.
But it wasn't.
So in the minutes, I'm sorry, in the minutes, there was a discussion of of moving away from a red griffin. That was a part of the discussion in last month's meeting. I'm certainly artists were privy to that, to the YouTube version of that meeting, and we're able to review the discussion afterwards. And so I suspect that is part of the reason why we did not receive those. We received 41 submissions after a round where we received over 80 submissions, after a round where we received over 50 submissions. So I don't know that the inclusion of an additional submission when we've already articulated that including that of a design that did not rank, provide the consensus that I think in all of our hearts of hearts we're hoping we can get to. I just don't, I don't see that. But Teresa, sorry, you've got your hand up.
I think something else to think about just in this discussion, and I appreciate where everyone is coming from, at least when I showed pictures of remembering that the griffin, when we think about the mythological creature, the head is an eagle. So people didn't automatically think with the griffin, like it's not a griffin anymore. People still identified that it was a griffin with an eagle's head and wings in some of those, where I don't know what other people's thoughts are or perceptions, and I'm sorry, somebody's not muted, so I'm echoing. But when I looked at all of these images, and I had the same concern brought to me that Dave brought up about the eagle, and brought it to Aaron, and that discussion was that, again, the griffin's head is an eagle. So a vote, looking at it and talking to people and getting opinions from the community, they acknowledge that even that eagle's head is still our griffin, and there wasn't a sensation or anything that made them go back away from it, because in respect to what we're charged with doing is softening the griffin, and that eagle's head, which shows up on two of the designs that were there. I don't want, at least in the people who I talked to, their mind was that's still part of the griffin. It's not a complete breakaway. It would be softening the griffin by having the head of the griffin versus the entire body. And there were, I think in the first slides we had, there was still, I mean, it's blue and yellow. There's still a griffin in those 4 images. And I think there are, I mean, this is an emotionally charged issue, and it's not to be disrespectful, but people's preferences, that red and yellow is a very hard sell to the group that came to the city council meeting with concerns. And at least the blue and yellow and a sitting stance instead of a standing stance was palatable. And I think that's where we need to get to, is finding a way to meet in the center Because otherwise it sounds like we're going backwards, and we need to keep pushing forward to find that middle ground. So for me, there were the red and yellows, I'll be up front, 0, because we talked about it. But that head of the eagle is part of the griffin. And those ones weren't as difficult to look at and say, you know what, here's one with yellow in it, and how could that be perceived? That's just my take. I think we're very close to meeting in the middle.
Joe, you got your hand up?
I appreciate what Teresa says. I will disagree on the sitting griffin just because I think it looks lazy, and I don't want cops to look lazy. That's kind of, I just think the sitting griffin looks like a lazy griffin, and you know, it's not an image I want to portray for the officers. I like all the standing ones. I just do not like the sitting ones because personal preference, it looks lazy. It looks like a dog sitting down being lazy, and I don't want that perception transferred to the officers. That's my personal preference on the griffin.
So that you don't know that it's sitting. It could be standing and it was just cut off from the neck down. That don't say it's.
No, you're talking about a different design.
It's not a sitting eagle.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the eagle. I'm talking about the griffin one, Sharon.
I know, but it's not a sitting.
Oh no, it's clearly sitting.
I thought of it, Joe, as protecting. It was watchful and protecting. Like my dog when it's at attention and it's watching me eat. Sorry, I'll stop now.
Yeah, I think it looks lazy.
Yeah. Latanya, you've got your hand up.
Yes. From all the people that I've interacted with, and I'm on several different committees and belong to several different organizations, and I've showed them all the pictures. And the one thing that they reiterate the most is it sounds like they're stuck on a patch and not what the position of an officer means. And they're more dedicated to a patch instead of being dedicated to their job. And I'm just sharing what has been shared with me. And so in stating that, you know, different organizations have logos, but our dedication is not to the logo. Our dedication is to that organization or the position we hold. The NAACP has a logo. I'm not dedicated to the NAACP's logo. I'm dedicated to the mission of the NAACP, and that is to fight for the rights of all people. Thank you.
Cliff here. Getting back to Joe, I agree. I think it's the griffin that looks to be obedient, perhaps not vigilant, obedient. Looks like he's ready for a biscuit because he's just shook your hand. My opinion, I think the standing one was better. And the one that got the most votes, I don't see a whole lot of difference. I know there were sister cities, but I don't see a whole lot of difference between our patch and Cedar Falls. This new one that garnered the most votes. So it's a lot like Cedar Falls with the eagle. But my opinion.
Yeah, I certainly see. I hear you, and I respect that. You know, I see that design in 107 as one. To Teresa's point, a lot of us here, you know, that any resemblance, any nod to an eagle head or a griffin or any of that. I've heard from a number of folks who are incredibly important in my life, whose opinions I value frankly more than most. You know, I hear those folks and they're saying, just do away with all of it, right? Get rid of all of it. No animal, no mythological creatures, no nothing. I think that particular design is a bridge, not to be confused with the designs that are bridges, but it is a bridge between these two sides, right? Where you've got folks who say the number one priority is to maintain a Griffin. I think that design still maintains a nod to the Griffin. I think for those other folks who say completely that the number one priority was to change the way that Griffin looks, so that there were real issues and concerns about the current insignia's resemblance to a clan dragon. I think that both of those sides can be satisfied on that particular design. That they're getting a little bit, they're still having to give, and that is what compromise is about. The reason this committee was established 6 and 6, right? The reason it was established with equal parts wasn't so that we could bicker back and forth with no end in sight. The intent was that we could find some level of compromise, and that compromise was ultimately going to be something that not everybody was going to absolutely love. Most often, compromise is something that no one, the compromise product is something that no one ultimately loves. But it is something that can speak to both sides of an argument, and both sides and two different perspectives. And I think that design, given its high scores, given its nods to sort of both sides of this discussion, I think that it has some merit.
Travis?
Yeah.
Just, I don't have to necessarily speak directly to Teresa, but I wanted to ask just some discussion on I'm not seeing the designs right now, but the one that has the head of the eagle, is that 112? What number is that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Joe, if you can go back up.
107B.
Yeah, 107C. If Matt asked some of the members on the committee if we could change that to keep that same design and maintain vigilance, if we could alter the color scheme to yellow background, red eagle, or whatever, and black Waterloo Police lettering, is that something that we'd be amenable to? Because it would be a change. I feel like that would be a meet in the middle. That's I mean, I have to be accountable to the officers that I work with, and I'm hearing that color scheme is important. I'm hearing vigilance is important, and also Griffin's important. And I know I can't have all of them. So I just want to know what some of the other members might think about something like that.
Just I'll just add that we would likely need to go back to the artist for that. So I think it's certainly doable to go back to the artist and ask for that. Yeah. And any other thoughts on the concept of changing the color scheme? Tim, you're got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Tavis. And by the way, good job, you and Joel. We're likely to end up with a compromise. And my personal opinion and why we were talking about it is I wanted to maintain something for both parties, both sides, but vigilance is very important to me. That is something that, if you'll recall early on in our meetings, it didn't come up. It was the Griffin, the Griffin, you know, and then a couple meetings in, somebody brought up an objection to vigilance. And I just hope that that's something that we can maintain. Because we are considering the emotional content or the emotional quotient for both sides.
Thank you. Aaron, you got your hand up?
Davis, could we put the screen up that's all of the revisions for 107? Because Spencer, some of them did have black in them. Is there one among them that you're more amenable to?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if we could get another revision, I mean, that's ultimately what I would like, but I still would like to hear some discussion if that is that open as a possibility for a red griffin, a yellow background, and black lettering.
I just don't think anybody on the community side is going to go for a red griffin.
Well, I think it's been called an eagle. It's been called a griffin. I don't think it's even readily identifiable as a griffin, to my estimation.
Griffin red. Is that what you mean? To turn this eagle red?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is the patch that we have now, the color scheme that we have at this current moment, if that could be transposed into this patch, I would like to see that, and I would like to see how that would be accepted by the committee and the officers that I'm trying to represent.
So would it, Tim, you got your hand up.
No, that's an old hand. I'll take it down.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Spencer, I'm just trying to take some notes here. So, sort of using that 107C concept, and just asking for a red griffin, yellow background, black lettering. Is there, and are you, is there potentially, looking at the design, there might be some desire to maybe tinker around with a little bit of that, just depending on, if you look at, for instance, the one, it's actually dead center. So that would ultimately be 107D. It's the one with the yellow background with the blue and black griffin. Would that, so there might be some desire from the artist to sort of play in that space a little bit and change and do something different with the coloring. So it's not all one red, but maybe it's red and black. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for you for some additional consideration.
And as far as your notes go, and maintaining vigilance, which is one of our core values that the chief has recently put out.
Yeah.
It's also in the police department mission statement.
So maintaining vigilance with a red, yellow, and black palette.
Davis, I think Shahiva has her hand up.
Yep. Sorry, I can't see everybody. My screen view got all sort of funky, so I apologize for missing some folks. Go ahead, Shahiva.
Okay. If we are just at this point giving our opinions, as far as what we think about that, I think, my opinion, you have the eagle head, which is reminiscent of, connected to, or whatever, the griffin. You have vigilance. To me, the addition of red is just the old patch 2.0. It's just, for me, it's too much of a rehash of what was removed, what was retired. And so coming back with the exact same thing, exact same color scheme and everything is just a bit much. To me, 2 out of 3, like Meatloaf's song, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, my opinion.
Of all the things I thought I was going to hear today, a Meatloaf quote from Shaviva is definitely not one of them. Teresa, you got your hand up.
Yeah, and it's pretty much just echoing Shaviva here, is that looking at the things that were asked for and knowing where we were moving from, and we've had the discussion of the red and yellow. So that's what we sent to the artist because that's what we've asked from them. And looking at it, there is that 2 out of 3. Like the word vigilance is still there. It didn't get removed. The established, my understanding was that was something that pretty much everybody liked, was having when it was established. At this point, if we don't have to have one design, can we just send 4 designs to council? Or do we have to say, here's the one?
We could, or 3 or 2 or whatever we wanted. That's sort of up to this committee. Aaron, your hand is raised.
I'm not quite sure how to say this. I agree with Teresa that we did have the discussion of the red griffin and sort of talked about how that was just one of the things on the community side, that if we're going to keep the griffin, it's not going to be a red griffin. I'm hesitant to ask the designers for more revisions unless we're talking about one very specific design, like we're sending design 107 to city council, and then it's sort of up to them and the police and maybe Tavis to work on the revisions with the artists together. I just want to remind everyone that we can't guarantee the artist will make the change in the first place. And the unfortunate truth is that if we add red and black to this eagle, it is going to start to skew more Nazi in a way that it didn't before as blue and yellow.
Joe, you got your hand up?
Yeah, before we send anything to the council, I would like to get a chance to send them to our vendor just to see what they say. They do this every day for a living. I just want to make sure they say, yeah, you can do it. No, you can't. It'll cost more, it'll cost less, just those kind of things from them. So I'm not, if we're going to do 4, great. I don't care, but I want to have a chance to run them past the vendor and at least get their input on it for the group.
Tavis, Spencer here. I just want to be on record by saying that when I talked about the red griffin last time, I did not speak in absolutes. I was only trying to be reasonable. And it was about the griffin that was on the other designs, not this one. I don't even consider this a griffin design. And I know that's my opinion, but I don't know, the 2 out of 3, the griffin is totally different. It's completely outside of what we have now. That I would see as a big win for the other side of this. And just to ask for the color scheme and vigilance, it seems pretty reasonable, but I feel like I'm kind of bending over backwards here to try and reach something and taking a beating while doing it. But I'm also willing to retract that statement about the red griffin, because it was referenced that specific griffin, not this one. I still like the color scheme because of the officer safety aspect of it, because of it's easily identifiable. The yellow and the blue, I don't know if it so much is, but I feel like I'm being very reasonable here. I don't know if I'm getting much back.
Spencer, did you make those recommendations last meeting when we made the list of revision requests for the artists?
Yes, I said that I could see where a red griffin might be problematic. So I could be, open to that. I don't exactly remember what I was word for word, but it really wasn't my intent to not have any of the submissions come back as that. So, I mean, that's unfortunate, but I guess I still own that statement. But
Right. It's hard because like these revisions are actually so different than the original. And I feel like the artist really did try to incorporate what we asked. And I'm just.
it wasn't my intent to abandon the color scheme altogether. So I apologize if that was what was relayed to the artist, but I mean, I didn't speak with the artist. I don't know who they are.
No, because we made that list, right? Each badge, and we made the list all together of the revisions we wanted to see. And like Major Joe specifically asked for like the gold border so that it would really pop, and the suggested color schemes. And I'm just worried, I don't recall that was included in the first place.
It may not have been, but I'm submitting that now.
So Spencer, just so you know, we did send, they're called PMS codes. So just to make sure that the colors are right, we sent them 4. We did include red in that color. We included the PMS code for the red. So that was included to all of the designers. Whether they chose to include those and incorporate into their designs is up to them, but that was sent to them and communicated.
Davis.
Yep.
I don't know if you're watching the chat, but I'm gonna give Teresa a shout out for a good idea. She put in the chat that if we could get the patches made and actually present them, that might even be better yet, because what it looks like on a computer screen versus what it looks like coming out, that might change the group's mind, but it certainly might weigh on the council's mind. Plus, we might have an idea what they cost to make. And I don't know if that's feasible or how much they'd cost to do spec up patches, but I can check on that tomorrow. I think before we, ultimately decide, I think I'd want to have something in hand. I mean, I don't buy a car sight unseen. I don't want to buy a patch sight unseen either. So just kind of, I think Teresa had a good idea there. I wanted to make sure people saw it.
Sure. Thank you. I didn't catch it. There was also a request, Joe, if we can get the those top 4, the top from each categories back up on the screen.
The
Davis?
Yeah, sorry, real quick, Sharon. It was the top of each category, Joe. Yeah, Sharon.
The one thing, okay, I'm gonna be forgetting what I was gonna say. The one thing that I just want to point out is that it might not be the current design of the griffin that everybody's used to, but that bird that's on that is a griffin head. And so I think the police side can take away with that they are getting, if the griffin is what's really important to them, the griffin is still on that design. And I think we need to keep that in mind. The other thing is we had also asked the artist to give us their vision of how they thought it would be on the side of a police car.
Mm-hmm.
Did we get any of that back at all?
We did. That was included in the on the Google Sheets.
I didn't see that, and so it might be interesting. At least I would think it'd be interesting to see how they envision it to be on the side of a car.
Tim, you got a question?
Not a question, I'm sorry if I'm moving us away from the thread of the conversation, but this is why I wanted those top 4 up there. If we go to the next step with these 4, making patches or just submitting them, Tavis, you and I had a an email conversation about this. 109B is emblematic of the 4th Street pedestrian bridge. And the Waterloo Community Foundation uses a very similar, but not quite. I don't know that there would be a trademark issue, but certainly if that gains any ground, keep that in the back of our minds that we'll have to go through that sort of check before moving forward.
Aaron?
I'm just curious, why are we sending, I like the idea of sending the top 4 for patches. I think that's a great idea. I think Major Joe is right on that it would be really helpful to see it in person. But I question why we're sending these 4 instead of the top 4 designs overall. I mean, shouldn't it be the designs that won from the scoring?
I mean, I think that's certainly up to us all to discuss and weigh. You know, the scoring is we've talked sort of throughout this process that the scoring is one part of the equation in determining what the patch is going to be. It's not sort of the sole determinant. But I think it's an excellent point and certainly worth thinking through and discussing. Dave, did you have your? I get so confused on whether hands are new hands or old hands, so I apologize.
It's a new hand, and I was just gonna. Aaron beat me to it because I believe at the beginning of this you said that 107C was like 1 through 7 or something like that, and then we picked up number 2, and then the third one was even farther down the list. I echo what Aaron says. I'm surprised that we're deviating from the top of the group. That's all I have. Thanks.
There we go. So there's the 107 is, we had seen the sort of slew of design, the 7 designs that were up there for a while, all basically with the same concept. Oh, just pop back off. Oh, no, it's okay. I was just talking about, I thought you were putting it up on the screen for a reason. My bad. So yeah, so Aaron, to your point, right? Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 were all of that one design. Obviously with some different elements, but of the same base, the same sort of structure.
So Tavis, can we see those up on screen? Because I mean, we're gonna keep going around and around and around about this, but if this is what we all on our own came to, I think we need to have the courage to move forward.
I'd agree. Joe, if you, sorry, man, you're doing a great job, Joe. Appreciate you throwing those bad boys on the screen. If
I don't
you
have
can throw
them though. That's Kendra. I don't have like the
107. Okay.
strings. I would say that if you go that route, you're basically going to send one group of patches, and I think that's going to limit our options when they come back and we look at them. And say we send the top 6, well, they're all going to look somewhat the same. They're all the same design, and say it looks bad. Well, now we just got 6 designs back that don't work. I mean, I would think you're better off taking the top design from each category. So you look at them individually and say, okay, yeah, this works, this doesn't. And we get an idea. I think we know which ones we're going to go with if we go with a category. So I think limiting our category to basically, you do 1 through 6, it's all the same patch, just different colors. And that, I think, is why would we send those to be designed?
I will admit that I'm a little. I understand the desire to. I think it's a prudent decision to send them over to see what they look like on a patch. It is ultimately. They're ultimately going to be pictures of a patch that we send around.
And for me, just so you know, when I'm saying like, I personally, like, whether it's on a patch or not, we're not making the final decision. I think that before they're sent to council, they should have the patches there so that they're looking at what decision they're making, because for us, it's just a recommendation.
Tavis, my intent was to get everybody on the committee a patch.
Oh, okay.
So everybody have them to physically look at, touch, feel.
Gotcha.
Depending on cost, obviously. I don't know what they charge us. They are our vendor. They've been pretty good through this process. They may do it just on the fact that they're going to remain our vendor. But I think I was planning on getting, if we do 4, there's 12 committee members, 48 patches, and divvying them out and getting them. I see most of you on a fairly regular basis. So getting them out to you so you can physically touch them, feel them, look at them, and make your own personal decision as to what they look like. I wasn't planning on sending pictures around because that's a repeat of what we got.
Yeah. So we've got some discussion that sort of take a step back from the actual stitched patch, but there's been some discussion on whether to go with the simply top 4 designs in terms of how folks ranked, or from one from each category. And we need to at least come to some finality on that one.
This is Tim. I think it would be, I agree with Major Leibel. It'd be iterative to send 4, 6, or 7 of the basic same design. I go for sending the top in each category.
Okay. Aaron, again, I can't tell the hands. Guys, you feel free to just jump in. Just
Okay.
yes.
I know that some of them are the same with different color schemes, but when it comes to 107, there are actually 2 completely different designs. There's one with like the banner over the top, and then there's one where actually the words are underneath. So I don't think that would be repetitive to send. Those are important differences, and those are the badges that scored the highest. I mean, what is the point of the voting process if we're not working with the highest scoring badges?
Good point.
Good point. This is Tim. Good point.
What does 107G look like? Which one is that? That's 2.
Andrew, if you can bring that one up. Yep. I think it's coming up on the screen.
All right.
There we are.
Yeah, because like 3, oh, now it's gone again. Like 3 of them have the banner, but the others are actually quite different. We lost them again.
Nope. No,
Yeah.
if we can. Okay.
So that's like, that's different enough from the one with the badge over it. It's completely different shapes on the inside. I understand it would be repetitive to send the same badge in different color iterations, but this actually has a lot more to it than just that. That's all. I just wanted to make sure we realized they weren't all exactly the same.
Let's send 5 then, at least, including this one as an example.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm okay with sending the 5. I think that this one is substantially different. She is correct. I don't have an issue with that. This one may look better. It is number 2 on the list from all our votes. So we could certainly do that. That's not, and then get them in hand and see. Now, if that doesn't work, we can revisit this.
The truth is, between the 2 lists, there's only 2 that are different, right? Like, I'm so bad at the numbers. Let me see. 107 and 109 are on both lists. Is that correct? So what if we just added the 109C, the 107G, and then the other yellow bridge design and the sitting griffin design? Because in the end, it would only be 6, and then we're including the top 4 and also including the top from every category. Does that make sense?
I've got 107C, 109B, 59B, I'm assuming is the one you were referring to, the other bridge one. Sort of the top 4 that we've had plus 107G, correct?
No, I'm saying do all the top 4 because 2 are on the same list, right? So to print all the top badges, whether it's for its submission or its top overall, we're only talking 6 badges overall.
Gotcha.
All of them.
You do, because I still have no clue.
Okay.
Yeah, Kendra. Yeah, Kendra, if you can put up, you know what? Give me
Hold on
20 seconds, guys, and I will combine all of them and just send it over to Joe and Kendra to put on the screen.
Right, because like these are the 4 that are the top highest scoring, right? It's 107C, 107G, 109C, and 109B. But then if we go with the ones that are the top scoring for their badge, we're also adding 59B. And what was the 22, 26, 34? Which one was that?
Yeah, I'm gonna put those on to one file now.
Okay.
And I'll send those over so we can put it up on the screen.
Then we have all the top ones and we don't have to choose like which group, right? And then we get the most variety and we're not having to make a unnecessary decision.
Tavis.
Yes.
So the one patch color that we haven't, that was never posted, can you print that one out then as well? Wasn't allowed on the screen for us to vote, the one I was talking about?
It wasn't submitted. It wasn't that it wasn't allowed. It simply was not submitted.
But it's,
So, sorry, what was that?
that, I know, I understand. We never had a chance to even vote on it. Can something like that be printed out for us to view as well? Since we're printing everything else out.
I mean, we're printing out
winners out.
We're printing out 6.
Yeah, we're printing the winner.
I think that would open us up to, with other people didn't get to submit, just taking a 30,000 step back foot view for things. That picture wasn't submitted. So now to accept submissions past our due date, we would have to open it community-wide. And we would be starting the process over because the artist who did meet the submission date, those are the ones that we voted on. Whoever the artist is for that one didn't get it in for submission. I'm sorry, we were speaking at the same time. I didn't.
That one was never even an option for us to vote on.
Right. They didn't submit it through the process to have us evaluate it. They might have passed it around at work or wherever else, but it didn't come through to Joe Leibel about the right process.
Joe, I just sent you the top 6. To sort of Aaron's point. I actually sent it to Joe and Kendra. That's a good catch, Aaron. So basically, we can combine both of those top 4 from this perspective, top 4 from this perspective. 8. Here we are. Total of 6 patches. To review.
We're gonna have to give the artist some time to make a production file, though.
Yeah, it's not as easy as just throwing it through the printer.
So to what? Send it to the patch company?
Right.
Well, I don't know. I always just send them a picture. So I don't know how they do it. But yes, you may be right.
Vector files, like what they've made is a design image, and they're gonna have to put it into like a production file. We need to be careful with the copyright there because now we're actually printing things.
You and your rules.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but hopefully, you know, if we just keep it really small and like we're very transparent with how many are produced, right? And then the files are sent to the Netherland of files, right? So that people can't steal the designs. I think as long as we're conscious about it, it should be okay. I mean, but we can't print out 100 and pass them around, right? Like that's that would be a copyright issue. But I think it's fine for the committee members. I actually think that's a great idea.
Well, you're at 72, so we're pushing close to 100. But yeah.
There's no more to add.
Yes,
So you're going to start to strain your relationship with your vendor. So Aaron, is that a motion then just to submit these?
I would love to make a motion. Let's submit the top 6 designs, be it from category or overall, and see if the artists are willing and able to make production files, and see if we can't get some badges to look at.
All right. Do we have a second to that motion?
Tim will second.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 I have to do a roll call on it. Sorry. Can we do that vote one more time? My screen was on a gallery, not on the same view. So, all in favor, please raise your hand. That this is to take those 6 designs and send them on to be printed. Teresa. All right, so make sure I've got everybody that's voting in support here. We've got Latanya, Joe, Aaron, Shaviva. I literally just wrote this. Latanya, Joe, Aaron, Shaviva, Teresa, and Tim. Is that correct? Okay. So that's at 6.
Davis, could I
and myself.
ask?
And myself. Sorry, that's a 7. Forgot to count. Okay, so we'll Tim, is that just a general hand of support or?
No,
Okay.
I wanted to ask a question, but direct it to Erin because she sounds like she has the expertise. And just a caution point. I know that we have media online with us. How about the artist's rights and everything, copyrights, trademarks? If media were to have taken a screenshot, are we allowing these designs out into the media?
Too late for that. So they've already been released through newspapers and things like that. But releasing a picture of something in the newspaper that's being considered is very different than handing over a vector file of a design. So that's my only concern, is that now we're asking to put these designs into production, and if we're not careful with how we treat those vector files, we just but there's a difference, right? The media are allowed to print journalism, but they're not giving away the file. You know what I mean?
All right, Didn't know.
Oh, that's a great question.
It's a great question.
Okay, so we will reach out to those artists, request the vector files for the purpose of printing those and bringing those back to this committee for consideration. And that motion did carry. So, do we have any? That's sort of our next step there. So we'll need to meet again. We will have to. Joe, I'm assuming they can turn that around in a month.
Well, I'm more curious about the files Aaron talks about.
Yeah.
How long that will take.
So let's not set a date for the next meeting quite yet until we have an idea of production turnaround and the ability to get that around to each of the committee members to review the physical patches. So I know Sharon's got an additional question that she wanted to ask as well. So Sharon, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, and this is kind of, it might be a wild hair idea. It might not have any merit at all. But I think you all know that going into the budgeting process, things are not looking that good. We are having to look at any way that we can cut back on our expenses. So one thing that came to mind that I would love everybody's opinion on is what's the reaction to saying that we're going to go ahead with this, whatever that design is that the council agrees to, and we put it on the uniforms and on the cars and letterhead and all of that. But the logo is also on each officer's gun. If we, and that's the biggest expense that we have, is replacing all of those guns. What do you think of not replacing the logo on the gun or waiting a year, doing everything right away, but not doing the guns until next fiscal year? What kind of response? I mean, most people don't see the officers' guns. And when they do see it, they don't notice the logos on there. So would there be harm in delaying changing all of the guns in order to change the logo?
And my understanding that the logo or insignia is it's affixed to the gun.
It's
not
engraved.
It's not like a little sticker or something that can be taken off. It's
engraved.
It would mean replacing the entire firearm, correct?
Yeah. So it would save us, I think, about what, half, Joe, of the expense?
It's probably a little more than a third, maybe. Okay. I won't say half to a third. I don't know.
It's one large expense.
It was the largest single ticket item on that.
Yeah, it's that, then uniforms, then the cars.
Yeah. We've got a few hands. Let's go Teresa and then Tim.
I don't know that we have been charged with that. So what I would say, Sharon, is I think from a community standpoint, at least the people that I am here representing, is knowing that there's a process for it to be done. Is it like, if it's not something we could afford right now, but we know that it would be planned for in a year or two budget, that would definitely be doable, because we are making progress towards our goal here, because council did vote to remove it. It just wouldn't be one of like your most immediate need. I personally don't think that the gun is the main issue, knowing that it would be replaced because you already voted to do it. So I don't think you'd have the opposition.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody else can speak if you think I'm wrong.
This, Tim, I like Sharon's concept. I recall asking that same question a couple months ago, and Joe had an immediate response to it in terms of, issues in a police use of force incident. But firearms are also retired on some sort of a schedule or some sort of reason. You could even amend that to putting it on the firearms as they're replaced.
And Tim, thank you for bringing up that point that Joe made. In talking to our city attorney, he did not believe that having the logo on the firearm would hamper any lawsuit that we might be involved in. So at least in the city attorney's opinion, that would not cause a problem.
He can sit on the deposition.
Well, he probably would, yeah.
I've done rebrands a couple different places, and a lot of times they are phased in. Most of the time organizations don't just have the cash to do a complete brand overhaul. I'm still amazed at how many times I find old pens or old folders or whatever that are still sort of in circulation. So I think it's a natural process in that rebranding for it to take a couple different phases.
Does anybody else feel strongly one way or the other, or do you think that the phasing it in is acceptable?
Dave's got it. I don't know if that's a supportive hand or if it's a question hand.
Just real quick, if we're gonna consider phasing it in, and I think that's a great idea, based on where we're at with our numbers, and as money comes in, start with the cars, move to the uniforms, go to the gun. That's an option, and it would minimize our exposure, because we're going to have to find that money somewhere. We're going to have to vote to come up with $100 and some odd $1,000 that we don't have right now, and like Sharon said, it's not a pretty budget. So,
well, I would echo.
I think the point was made. I think Spencer made it in the chat. Sorry, go ahead, Spencer.
Well, I mean, we've been told what's in our scope and what's not in our scope, but if our opinions being elicited, phasing it in would seem to make sense. If we're strapped, cars would seem to be the logical choice. The city garage, I think, can do a lot of that stuff. Maybe not, I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't know if we're being asked, so I guess I would say phasing it in.
It's okay, huh?
I think that's why council gets paid the big bucks, is to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately that it is a council decision on phasing in or not.
I just wanted everybody's opinion because I didn't want to recommend it if everybody was really in opposition to it. So thank you.
All right, so we will follow up via email. Like I said, we'll reach out to those artists, those designers, to get those vector files. Joe, I'll get those over. I'll have them get them over to you, and then you can work with the vendor, and we can identify a time frame and set a meeting. My gut tells me we're probably looking closer to 6 weeks than 4 weeks, but we'll send an email and get something on the books as soon as we can identify a date. So
great.
All right.
Good job, Tavis. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Got a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Either way. All right. We'll see you guys later.